93 gotta be.
What's going on, family? It's your brother Lawrence here with another episode of Watch God Work. In every episode, we get the distinct pleasure and honor to speak to a brother and sister that's doing exceptional work in every field of human endeavor, and they share their God stories, the ways in which God has been at work in their life and the ways in which God has been at work through their work. And today, it is no different. I am grateful and I'm thankful to speak with my sister, our sister, your sister, Ezinne Okparaebo. How you doing, my sister?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I'm thankful. We broadcasting live from Norway. The beautiful thing about your story after all these Olympics, for you being the fastest Norwegian of all time and you doing amazing work.
Yeah.
That you're very clear about from where it came. You're very clear about who empowers you in doing those things. But anytime I talk to track people, I got so many questions. So first we gonna start off. Who is Ezinne Okparaebo? Who are you? We're gonna start there.
Whatever. Right. Okay. I was born in Nigeria, and I moved to Norway when I was 9, and I didn't start with track and field until I was 12 years old. So before that, I didn't know that I had any sort of talent. And I found something that I was good at, and that was to run fast. And that's how it started. So when I was 17 years old, I decided that, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And I have been doing it since then. So it's been a while.
you said so matter of fact, right? You know, and I love your reference, publicly to Philippians 4:13, and like I could do all things through him who gives me strength, right? And often that's used out of context, and people understand like what's the context when Paul was writing that. But there's something about recognizing a talent and then recognizing you have a talent that is like different. Right. Yes. There's one thing to be fast. There's another thing to be like, oh, this is like, God, you're going to do something through this. When did it really click that, oh, okay, this is not a hobby. This is a God-given thing that I need to roll with?
And when I was 17, because I stopped with track and field when I was 15. I didn't feel the environment. I didn't felt it felt a bit like alienated because where I live, Oslo is quite divided, and the facilities and where I went to train was at the other side of the town where I'm not from. So I kind of felt alone, and the environment, I didn't like it. So I quit and I wanted to do something else. But then I don't know how I came back, but I did. And I felt that, okay, this has to be a talent because it comes naturally to me. And I also found out that, okay, this talent is not because I see how I pick up things quickly. It must be something from God because I've always believed. But I knew that now I know that track, that's not where I put my identity. That is not me. That is a tool to hopefully glorify God with what I have and hopefully for people to see him through what I do. So that's the way I see it. It's more like God has given us, everyone, gifts. And one of mine is to run fast.
You talk about just, I love this, but you talk about just Oslo divided. Could you go a little bit more into detail in terms of what that looked like? What did that mean for you, at 15, between 17? What did that mean?
It meant, I felt something. Do you mean when I quit track?
Yeah. Even when you had to go cross town to kind of a place where you're kind of a bit out of bounds, so talk a little bit more about the division in terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And that's also what inspired me to have an organization which is called Ezinne Athletics, and that is to empower girls such as me, like I was, through sports. So the eastern part of Oslo is, what do you call it, like lots of, that's where my family settled when we came to when we came to live here. And the western part is more like a suburb. But unfortunately, all the good facility, everything is like at that time at the west, which means that I had to bus or my family have to, you know, follow me all the way. And I was 12 at that time. And also people that I used to, like my friends, were not from that area. So it was kind of hard to fit in. And I didn't fit in at all. Like people were nice, but I felt like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
and also
the nasty nice or like the false nice.
You know, I didn't quite understand sometimes the humor or the norms. So first coming from Nigeria to Norway and then kind of feeling that I'm settled and then again go to another place and there's another set of norms which I had to kind of figure out. So that was a challenge in itself. And, you know, but I also felt like that I also were seen and kind of in a way accepted because I run fast. And I felt like, okay, it's not really me, but it's just my talent that was accepted. So that's how I felt. So
I love this because I think in some sense, a natural question for anyone learning more about your story and God and journey is I would say that the dynamism or like how dynamic it is to have to be in multiple environments. How do you feel at home? How did you ever feel settled? Because you're 9 years old, you moved to Ammerud, right? Norway, right? You're with your family, right? You're now going cross town, out of place. And so was it that track and field you felt at home in that, or it still even felt a little bit off because you felt, you know what, these people don't really accept me. They just accept my talent. So I have to find home with God. Like, talk a little bit more about how you started to feel at home and where God came in there.
Yes, exactly how I felt. I feel like no matter what happens in my life, something that is steady and something that I can always rely on is God. And I can feel athlete or being an athlete in general, our emotional life and our life is like a roller coaster. Like today you can have a big win and everyone is like, yeah, you got lots of messages. And then the next week people almost don't, you know, they like don't know you because you ran bad. They don't want to meet your eyes. They don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So being in that environment, I felt like something that was steady and something that is never changed is the love that God has for me and the peace that I feel like when I'm in, in His environment. But my journey is, I grew up like my family, coming from Nigeria, especially the East, like we're Christian, but sometimes it's more cultural. We go to church. I felt like because everyone goes to church, you put on your Sunday dress, and like almost the same thing. And sometimes it's also you meet your friends, family friends. So I grew up like that. But I'm very, very happy that I was introduced to that faith. So even though when I was younger, I wasn't like strong believer. And also when I was in my youth, adolescence, I kind of left a little bit from it. I felt it was restricting. I felt it was like I felt weird because not lots of my friends they were not Christian. So I tried so much to fit into the world, to kind of like downplay their faith in me. So it's just now that I'm getting more matured that I really, really value and see how my faith has played such a big role in my success. And also when I feel like I felt that it didn't, like I can always feel like I have something that I can rise up. Like it did not actually define me, even though at that time it felt like, okay, if I fell, I felt like maybe a loser. I really did. But at the end of the day, I always knew that I have something which is bigger, and that is God. So having that with me I'm still here today doing track and field because of that. If I didn't have my faith, I don't think that the journey would have been so much harder.
Yeah, I love you talked about just the, the sense of feeling constricted. And you and I talking offline, and one of the things I was laughing about was just like my introduction to you, so to speak, and it was just like London, right? I was in London at that time. My best friend was competing in the triple jump for Haiti. And I remember, and I remember coming down, and I remember I was watching the 100 meters. And when you talk about freedom, it was just like, it's always curious because, there's something about someone embracing themselves, embracing their personality. And I remember the fact that they introduced people and they said your name. And then there's just like a little smile and look. I was like, she got spunk, just like, and so it clearly you were free, right? Because not everybody, the two-step, nervousness, clearly your personality was coming through. The reason why I kind of share that context is that I'm curious about, when did you start first? Tell me about a time when you first felt free in your faith. When it was this constricted thing to then you started to feel free. Tell about a time when you started to feel free.
I cannot remember a certain time where I thought, wow, I'm free. I don't think there's a certain incident, but I think it was more a journey. Because I can tell you, living in this world, being a believer, you always have people trying to make you doubt your faith. Always. Even like, I'm very outspoken where I stand, but even today I'll have people come like, why are you Christian when you know the history of it, but to me, it's like, it has been a journey from even sometimes doubting my faith and also some coming in. But what I always knew deep in my heart is that God is real. I felt it. There's something like I feel it. So even if I cannot explain it, I know that God is real. And the freeing thing is something that also comes with accepting myself and loving myself and being who I am regardless. Like sometimes when you say you're Christian, also people try to box you in and put you in a box, and a little bit of the struggle that I've had, because I remember one time someone said, oh, you're a Christian, so you must be like holy, or, like they Christian people in a certain way. And I felt like maybe it didn't quite fit my personality. I'm not, I'm me, and I'm still believing God. But like there's not a time, but it's a gradual journey. And from I was 20, that's when I started like embracing it, because before I was a bit embarrassed by it. So from kind of embracing it, and this is me, and this is a part of me, and this is my identity. Before it was just a little part. Now my identity is in Christ. So, and now I feel like embrace it. And I know that I can be myself. I can be fun. I can be, I can just be me and still, strong faith. I even feel like it makes me more, I wouldn't say, I feel like I don't mind kind of like differentiating myself. While before I wanted to fit in, now I'm like, I don't want to be like you. I'm good being me, So it's a journey.
Yep. I love the level setting, with this, because I think it's important for people to hear that it is a journey, and that the journey is a lifelong one, right? We never arrive until like the king comes back, but we will always be on a journey somewhere. But I think for just, for people seeing you from the outside in, I think it's sometimes overwhelming to say like 3-time Olympian, you're the fastest person in this from this country. But for anybody who kind of understands track and field, the reality on the other side, as you say, the up and down nature of the sport after each thing. And not everybody, when people think about professional athletes, particularly in the States, let's talk about United States, it's very much, they think like just opulence and everything's like you're just like millions of dollars, right? But everybody knows track and field, it doesn't necessarily pan out that way. So could you talk, when did you have a moment when you just you felt like God kind of you had to lean on God in a unique, like a way where you're just like, yeah, whether it was just like, man, I just need you differently than I've ever needed you before. Like can you talk about a moment when that happened, when you kind of behind the scenes or you're like, I need you, God, please. And you can keep it live. This is family. So people need to hear the stories.
Okay, there's so many times, especially like I feel I sometimes I am my worst critic because I expect a lot of myself. So if I have high expectations and I don't reach them, like I will be devastated. And there was a time I put like all my identity in sports. Like if it went well, I felt great. And if it went bad, I felt really crap. And it was those moments like I wanted to win, for example, a championship that I'm supposed to win and it doesn't go well. Like I was like, God, like, where are you? I pray that I wanted to win. What happened?
Give us some time. Give us some timeline, because you have had a enduring career. Right. So give us some time. People need to know timeline. You got to give us a moment. We gonna wait here. We're going to wait. You got to give us a moment.
Okay. So, 2012 Olympics, that's where you saw me in Norway. And I was like, everything was happy and I was upcoming. And I think I was best European athlete at the games. And I almost came to the final. So that was like, that was like, God, yes, we're good, but it's fine. I want to do other things too. And I feel like after 2012, like it became really rocky, like with my career. And there were so much expectations, which is fine as well. But also I felt like it wasn't as easy as it was before. Like moving to other countries to train, to find training groups, and the loneliness you feel like when you're not home and you're chasing this dream and you're doing everything that you can and it's still not going your way. That's when, at that time from 2012, that's when actually like when it becomes harder for me. Unfortunately, that's also when I seek God. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. I think we should always seek God regardless. But to me, it was when I was having the hardest time in my life and not being at home and being like somewhere else and doing everything I could. And it was still being so hard. And like, there was a time I had like, I was not at the, like in the, like I was supported, like funding, and then everything was taken away. And it really went to my self-esteem and self-worth. So I had to kind of like build it again through my faith in Christ, and know that no matter what happens, it's a test. And to make me, for me, it's like, okay, if God didn't want me to, like he wouldn't give me more than I can handle, So that's try to grow closer to him. But there's many moments like I've been on the like floor and crying. I'm like, God, where are you? And you put me in this lane and things are not going my way. And do you want me to still be here? Do you want me to do something else? So there's many times, but I think the last actually like 2 or 3 years, that's when I decided that I wanted to find myself, my true self, my identity in God. And since then, I feel like it has been growing just the past 2 or 3 years, nothing more. Before, I was outspoken, I believe in God, but now it's more, I felt like it's more like spiritual based. It's not what I've heard, like what pastors or sermons I've heard. It's actually like I am more interested in sometimes opening the Bible and reading it for myself and kind of being guided where I'm reading the scriptures, and it speaks more to me. And it's just the past couple of years, I feel like I can boldly like speak to you about my faith, and actually like I'm not waiting if somebody comes and tries for me to doubt my faith. I am bold. Like I know that without God, I wouldn't be where I am today.
This is I appreciate this because I don't think people fully understand the things you have to carry as an athlete, like,
So much.
and I tried to be very general when I kind of asked the last question, because you and I both knew what I was talking about, which is just the financial support, the how the federation is dealing with you, and then injuries, and then it's just there's all of these things that you're dealing with in London. That's 9 years, right? And so you find yourself at this moment where you're like, God, I really, really need you. I think about this in terms of even motivation, because I love that you anchored the past 2 years, because for some people, it's like you don't get a break, or it feels too far off. Either it's too close or too far off, meaning, every year I have something, I have world championships, I have things I need to get ready for. And so I don't feel like I don't have a break. And then I can't really just relax. I can't always eat what I want. I can't do, it's just like that. And then there is, I'm really gearing up for Olympic. That's 4 years out. And everything in between, that because there's international attention, more money, more this, right? Has motivation, right? To your point now of like, just God, should I continue? Should I not? What should I do? Should I not? How do you lean in God around motivation now, right? Because there's one piece we talked about freedom, and now your identity being where it needs to be. But there's another thing for a person to be, how did you keep yourself motivated, right? To keep going.
And that's the motivational part. Like, I am good at motivating myself, but at the same time, like we talked about, I am very stubborn. So if I want anything, my friends tells me all the time, they're like, yeah, you're just like a blind person going to whatever you want, fire. I'm like, I want that, I'm going. So in terms of motivation, I'm very good at motivating myself, but the past couple of years and even now, I'm more relaxed. I'm more like my shoulders more down, because I put my trust in God now, So I'm thinking to myself, if it's His will, then the doors will be open, and He will tell me to keep continuing. If God wants me to go in something else, then He will lead me. So I feel like it's even better now, because it's not just on me. I have someone to guide me through everything. And I know, like you said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So no matter what I do on this earth, I feel like I will do it. Like, I have no fear when it comes to taking new projects or doing anything. And I know if I have God with me, I will succeed. So, and I also know it's not just track and field. God has empowered me with lots of things, and also others. So, and I also believe there's seasons for everything. So when God tells me this season, you need to move on, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to obey Him, because He's my Father and I trust Him. And that's where I am in life right now. It's God, you take the lead. I'm going to follow.
It's refreshing, because I think for those people who are watching and who could hear this, you could hear the freedom. You could hear the peace. You could hear because I think people do what people can relate to, even for those who listen to this around the world. There's the story of the athlete coming to the end of the cliff and not knowing where it ends. Like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going to happen after my career is done. Because for the most of my life, right, from my 20s through 30s, I have done this thing. And I can't imagine what is actually on the other side of this mountain, what's on the other side of the cliff, so to speak. But you're speaking to, I think this is relatable for everyone, this, you know what, God will lead me in the same way that God led me miraculously into this career, miraculously kept me, miraculously found a home, miraculously gave me this talent. He's going to lead me. And I'm comfortable that my Father leads the way.
Yes.
I'm curious about this, because you talked about loneliness, and I think that's actually an understated thing. For the past, most of my career, I talked about the issue of loneliness, in the digital age, especially now, you feel differently, but there's a unique loneliness of training in the context that you were in. How do you have, I guess, healthy community while at the same time making sure that you are also have healthy space to lock in for your career, right? You know, how do you deal with just community and needs now? Because obviously you have your little sister, you have your coach, you have your, you know, you have your, you know, your family. Just how do you deal with the loneliness now at this stage of your life?
I don't feel, I think I'm an introvert. Like people see me as extroverted because
you waving at the camera, but what you can't get mad at them. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
I give up the introverted vibe, which that's okay. But I've truly found out that I think I'm an introvert because I really like spending time to myself. Like I have to. If I spend a lot of time with people, I'm like, okay, enough, let me go. Put the blanket.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all embrace thyself. Embrace.
Yeah. So I don't struggle too much with that feeling of loneliness because before I did, also not living in Norway, and that's where my family lives, like following coaches and just all the time on the road, all the time, you know, things are not just uncertainty. That's how I would describe as the athlete, like a life of an athlete is uncertainty all the time. You don't know if you still got sponsors next year. You don't know, you know, if you're going to qualify. You don't even know if injury is going to stop your career. So you never know. So it's that uncertainty and sometimes loneliness. Also, even though if you have like coaches and everyone around you, at the end of the day, when you're on the starting line, it's still you. So whatever happens, it is a lot of on you. So you, even if you have people, you kind of sometimes feel alone in all. And that's also where my faith come in. And that's also what have strengthened much of my faith, because with God, I feel less lonely. Like I'm here in the house, I'm okay. And I feel fine at the same time, because I think to myself that the people that I accept in my life is also the people that God wants for them to come in my life. Because sometimes when you accept everyone, they might kind of take you away from God. So I would rather be like more to myself and strengthen my faith than try to be everywhere else and kind of like derail from where God wants to lead me. So I don't struggle too much with the loneliness now, because I accepted that, you know, God, whoever he wants to come into my life, you're going to put them in my life. I'm not going to, you know, go out and, you know, look for people. So, I mean.
Yeah, I think you're giving a word for people, because I think it's understated. Even, you know, praying beforehand, we talked about just like God is the master orchestrator. God ordains relationship. God ordains circumstances and people. And so even your friendship, these things are divine. And to your point, there's some freedom in saying, okay, here are the people in my life, number one. Number two, here's my personality, and I don't get energy around y'all too long, too. Number three, you know, this is the nature of the work that I do. So God has also graced me for what this requires. And so I'm able to navigate all of these things. I think even just going a little deeper as we kind of trail a bit is what people don't understand is also the rhythms of life as an athlete. And, you know, at this, in this season of your life, what is your ideal rhythm with God? How, when, if you had to, if somebody cleared a couple of days for you and you were just like, I just need to connect with God, what would an ideal rhythm, how would you draw up that day? What would it look like for you tangibly?
For me, it's worship. It's, if I want to spend time with God, I put on worship music, and because it speaks to my soul and it tells God like how I feel. And so from that, I feel like some people, they say they meditate, and that's okay. For me, my peaceful moment with God is to put on worship and either sing along or just to peace quietly, just, you know, feel the presence and pray and sometimes I open the Bible. Not I should say all the time, but it's actually sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes a little, sometimes I open up a little bit.
And I see some scriptures, and I also have this app. Like every morning I try to have a morning routine. So even though I don't want to be too much on my phone, it still helps me to keep a routine with God. So I'll open the app and I will read the scripture for the day, and I'm like, okay, now I'm actually starting my day and having God center in my day. So that's how I spend it. And before, I also put like too much emphasis in, okay, I have to go to church every Sunday. But also what I've realized is church is good, but at the end of the day, like, we're the church, the fellowship with one another, we're the church. And also when the COVID happens and you cannot go to the physical building of the church, it's having that time with God and maybe with one another is also very important. And I also realized that sometimes when I went to church, it wasn't even for God, it was more for the social gathering, and so that is like now I value more the relationship that I have with God. More.
The piece you have is you kind of talk about these instances post 2012 of, really when things were turned up, where you really had to lean in when you really needed God. I think for you, because I think even now, I think people can get the disposition of this introversion, this calm, cool Ezinne, right? But I'm wondering how God worked the awe. When's the last time God's kind of like just blown you away, where you were just like, oh, but God? Because I think, the but God type of blow you away moment where you're just like, okay, that was only God.
I think it's mostly like whenever I want to give up, and I always feel like so God speaks. Before, when I hear people say God spoke, and I'm like, how? Like,
that's a question. I'm like, was he like a James Earl Jones voice? Like, who is this? Right? Yeah.
All the other voices, like, huh? How does it sound? So I never understood it. But now it's more like I feel it deep. I feel like, there's like a discernment. That's why I pray about it. Like I feel it, and it's hard to kind of like tell people how it is. But yeah, it's just in the hardest time of my life. That's also where I found that I was comforted, because not everyone understands me. But I feel like with God, there's no shame. I feel like I can come as I am, and he accepts me the way I am. And yeah, that's how I felt. But it's so hard for me to find those incidents, because I didn't think about it, but I'm sure there are like some moments.
No, it's all, we're gonna wait. I'm gonna pick on you. I'm like, nope. Everybody knows who listen. We family here, so we pull it back the introversion. I'm like, like, when was that moment? Because we think about a long career, faithful public witness, joy that you exude publicly, right? So when someone hears this, they may be like, huh? Right? But I think you could free somebody, So like, when was that like my hardest moment in your life? What can you share?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
Okay, that was actually after Olympics in 2016. It was so hard for me, because like after 2012, right? It was expected for me to like even win the Olympics. I don't think people even know how hard the 100 meters is. Extremely hard, and it's very competitive. And also being from, like, I live in Norway, it has been me all the way. So I didn't have anyone to look up to or any time to measure up to. I had to always be the pioneer and kind of like compete against myself. So that was also hard, and, a lot of disappointments along the way. And the 2016 Olympics, like, I really, like, I felt badly. I didn't even come to the I just only have like one race and that's it. And that was such a hard blow for me. And honestly, like I locked myself up in the house. I've never felt that way for like a whole week. Like I was so embarrassed to go out. And that's like when I had to like, okay, God, I'm not going to go on without you. And that's one of the moments where I felt like I had to kind of lean into like God. Yeah.
You know, I appreciate, you know, this is a gift offering when you share these things. And so I appreciate it because I could only imagine that, right? But I love these stories though, because I don't think people fully understand, and especially you specifically, when you don't have this, let's say, long lineage of track like excellence at that level in what you're doing specifically, it's like the country's on you. It's like the weight of the country's expectations on you, and so it's not even just that I am disappointed. You feel like everybody's disappointed in you. Yeah. You know, heavy as the crown, people would say, right? Of that. Yeah. And so I'm really, really appreciative. You know, I think as we kind of come into the close, I think the way you speak about your security and your future, you know, I think it makes people excited about kind of like what's ahead. But you also have to be fully present because you have business to attend to, right? Right. So I certainly understand that. But for you, what are some things do you even feel now, you know, that you sense that you want to do or want to put into the world, right, while you're still here, right? I like asking that question. What, you know, as in athletics, you talked a little bit more about that, about the empowerment and the equipping. Just what are some of the things that you just want to do, or you just would look forward to just doing, right, on the other side of the career?
A lot. It's more. My problem is good problem. Yeah. So I thank God. I mean, I feel really blessed and favored. So it's good problems because it's more like I only see opportunities and not like I'm not afraid. It's more like this and this and this. So God, which one should I choose? I'm more there. Like, what else do I want to do? And also, while I'm a track athlete, how can I use it to glorify your name, you know? So it's still like I told you, it's more like waiting on him and being patient and let him to lead me. But there's a lot. I feel I love to empower people. Like I love to speak life into their, like lift them up. So I definitely want to do something in that lane. If I have more of, I would, it's more with time and yeah. So, and also like the things that I choose to do, but definitely like more empowerment stuff through that. And also like lift up women, especially because I know how it is. And I also know a lot about, even though like people, I've always have like lots of self-esteem. I've never struggled with that, but also like loving yourself and being secure in yourself and also finding that identity, because being a woman in this world is, maybe some men, but I can speak as a woman, is you always get, you're not good enough. If you do this, then you'll be better. You know, a lot of women feel like that. But to me, also believing in God is freeing because the world will not determine my worth. You know, it's through God that I see it. So I'm really passionate about doing something in that lane. So we'll see.
I think anyone who's paid any attention, and the many people have, thankfully that God has given favor in the eyes of so many people who have followed you, have followed your career, have listened to your words, have heard everything that you've done from Norway to around the world. I think it doesn't surprise, nor would we be surprised, that God would continue to expand your territory, to glorify him through words and through actions, through activities, through programs, through projects of empowerment for women and men all around the world. My sister, you know, this conversation is continuing with us offline, but I'm thankful for your life. I'm thankful for you embracing who you are fully, even before you kind of felt more comfortable with your relationship with God through to this time, because I do think, to your point, there's something about sport beyond how it brings people together, but there's something about like you learning about who you truly are. You learned about what you had inside. You had a talent, but that's like you learning who you are. But the beautiful thing that we all believe, those who've encountered God, and even those who are curious who are listening to this, is that your journey with God is your journey back to yourself.
Yeah.
And so I'm so thankful, I think on behalf of those who will watch this and who listen to this, I'm so thankful for you. I'm thankful for the journey you've taken us on in this conversation and the journey you will take us on for those who will watch in person or otherwise. But, you know, Tokyo be shutting down stuff, right? That you've taken us on through your career. So my sister, I thank you. How could people connect with you? How could people connect with you? What is the best way that they can connect?
I have Instagram, so it's Ezinne or Ezinne_, and also my Facebook page. I think I have Twitter as well. I just don't use it that much. So Instagram will be the best.
It's hard to manage all these things. It's hard to manage. Ezinne, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. God bless you, my sister. All right.
You too. Thank you for having me. I actually enjoyed sharing.
Most definitely.